Hey, today we're going to work on rational roots theorem, and it's basically the theorem where you find what the possible rational roots are for a polynomial. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, we got 6x cubed plus 8x squared minus 3x minus 10. So whenever we look at what the possible rational roots are, we always look at the last term, which here is negative 10. So what do we do here? So now with negative 10, we take the factors of always the last term, which is negative 10. So that is plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 5, plus or minus 10. The reason why we did plus or minus is because the negatives work just as well as 10. Negative 1 times negative 10, negative 1 times 10 is still negative 10. So, of course, you have to count in the negatives. And now, this is not over. Now, if the coefficient of the leading term was 1, this would be over, but it's not. It's 6. So, since it's 6, add a line here, and we have to take the factors of this and divide them by all of these. So the factors of 6, plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 3, and plus or minus 6. Okay, now that we came this far, we know these are the factors of the last term, and these are the factors of the coefficient of the first term. So now what do we do here? So now we divide them by each one. So now let's start with 1. With 1 divided by 1, we got plus or minus 1 as our first possible rational root. 2 divided by 1 is 2. And so forth. You get plus or minus 2, plus or minus 5, and plus or minus 10 because they're just divided by 1. But we're not done here. Now that we're done with the 1, we go on to 2. So here we see the 1 and we see the 2. So here is 1 divided by 2, which is 1/2. So now it's also plus or minus 1/2. It's 2 divided by 2, which is 1. But we already got plus or minus 1, so don't worry about that. And then 5 divided by 2. And 5 divided by 2 is 5 over 2, plus or minus 5 over 2. And then we got 10 over 2, which is plus or minus 5. And we got plus or minus 5 here, so we're fine. Going on to plus or minus 3. So 1 divided by 3, plus or minus 1/3. 2 over 3, plus or minus 2/3. And I think you get the gist of it. 5 over 3, 5/3. Plus or minus 5/3. And then 10 over 3 plus or minus 10/3. If they repeat, you don't add them again. If they don't, if it's a new one, you add it. And then we got plus or minus 6. 1 over 6 plus or minus 6. And it's a lot of factors. I mean, that's just how it is. And then 2 over 6 is 1/3. Do we have plus or minus 1/3? Yup, so we don't write it. So 5 over 6, we do not have that. Plus or minus 5 over 6. And then we got 10 over 6, which is 5 over, hold up, I'm completely, 5 over 3. Do we have 5 over 3? Yup, so we don't have to write that. And that's all of the possible factors. So if I just circle this, holy, I'm so bad at drawing circles, but that was basically the rational root theorem. And finding all of the possible rational roots for a polynomial. All right, and we're back. Let's look at our own example now. The last one was a teacher's example. Let's look at our own. Okay, first of all, let's look at the last term. The last term is negative 6. So what are the factors of that? Well, we got 1, 2, 3, 6. So let's write that down. And of course, they're plus or minus. Plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 3, plus or minus 6. Okay, I hope you can see that too better. There you go. Now, what we would have done if the coefficient wasn't 1 is use the factors of those and put them here, but the coefficient is virtually just 1. So we don't have to do anything of that because that's just 1 down here. So we divide all of them by 1, which basically means that all of these are our possible rational roots. So now, with these, you just plug them into the problem, and whichever one works, whether it be 1, -1, 2, -2, whatever, if it works, it's a solution. All right, here's the third example I'm just going to give to you. And so, again, we're working on rational roots. So, the last term, let's look at it. What are the factors of 4? Plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, and plus or minus 4. Right? 2 plus 2 times 2, 1 times 4. Now we look at the first term. Oh, it's not 1. It's 3. So now what are the factors of 3? Well, that just becomes plus or minus 1 and plus or minus 3. So now what we do with this, we have to divide each of the denominators by the numerators. So we disperse it, basically. So let's start with 1. All of them are going to stay the same. So the solution, these are all the possible solutions, like I previously stated. So those work. Now that 1 is over with, let's go plus or minus 3. So 1 divided by 3, plus or minus 1/3. We got 2 divided by 3, which is plus or minus 2/3. And then, of course, we got 4 divided by 3, plus or minus 4/3. And look, that's a short problem. We got all of them, ran through all of them, and here are basically all of our possible rational roots, and that is the rational root theorem. I hope you enjoyed the video, and that's how easy it is, bruh.